Hi folks, these are games that are cheap now. If all you're looking for is my selection for the week, you can scroll down to the video description below and find a complete list of the games selected and the respective storefront link where to get them, either for cheap or for nothing at all. If, however, you're interested in hearing my thoughts on them, why they were selected, maybe why you would be interested in playing them, here we go. Our first stop on the quest against greedflation is Humble Bundle. As always, the monthly membership has a list of 8 games available for free, essentially with the membership. And these 3 caught my eye. If you don't know what Yakuza Like a Dragon is, Japanese RPG, adventure, action, crazy characters, insanely inventive mini-games, storylines. If you don't know what it is, you should maybe look at the video on screen now and decide whether it's for you or not. As far as my recommendation goes, a must-play. Second up is Hi-Fi Rush, an exceptionally good game, an exceptionally pretty game, an exceptionally talented and small development team that were all fired because they made a very good game. That doesn't make sense? Well, it's Microsoft. Oh, well. In any case, know that if you bought the game, the video game devs will not be rewarded for it. You'll still have the satisfaction that they will know the game was very, very good. If you like music, rhythm, bright animations, you'll get a rush out of Hi-Fi Rush. Third on the Humble Bundle, Steelrising. If you know what Dark Souls is, you will get into this game. It will fit you like a glove. Well, maybe a metal glove, because it's all about mechanical constructs in a new setting, say a setting that has not been explored by the Dark Souls games, and by an entirely different studio, so not From Software. If you're into that sort of thing, I kind of am. Steelrising. Moving on to Steam, the platform of choice for many, and even the platform of choice that games purchased elsewhere lead to. We have a smattering of games in different styles, and more recent, and the not so recent, on sale. First on the list, Vampire, an RPG with an interesting system of choice regarding whether you feed, how much you feed, on whom you feed, that may come back to bite you. Yeah, because you're a vampire. And killing the wrong people, or killing too many people, or not enough people, might have consequences that you don't, or maybe you do, want to live with. An interesting concept, not perfect execution, but a very solid game nonetheless. And for under 10 euros, a solid buy. Undertale, let's say a very original concept, though, this is my opinion, a bit of an eyesore in some aspects in terms of the art style, but it is suited to the type of game it is. Meta, very simple, let's say, in its presentation and concepts, at least in appearance, at least on first glance, but then you find out that maybe there's things under the hood that are worth exploring. And at $250, certainly worth exploring. The Forest, open world survival game, potentially the most well-known game of the genre, at least in recent times. Now with a sequel, in some aspects better, and some not so good as the original The Forest. If you want to be scared, run, fear for your life, constantly until the end comes, and what an end. the forest is for you. Or, just spend your time crafting little cottages and hope the locals don't destroy them. You may just want to find a cozy campfire and stay there forever. Dome Keeper. A very interesting game concept that is reminiscent of Paratrooper, the old DOS game, in that you have control of a turret defense system, in essence. Here you can upgrade it, and most importantly, collect resources underground your dome, protecting your defensive systems and your little meaty self from horrific creatures that want to destroy you. You increase your turret's firepower, speed, weapons, your character's characteristics in many ways, and hopefully you'll survive the onslaught. Moving on to Kerbal Space Program, another game that has a fairly recent sequel, and as is often the case in these past few years, the sequel is not quite up to scratch to the original, at least not before a lot of fixing is done. That, and also the vast amount of mods available through the community for the original that haven't quite all transitioned to the second in the series. So, for less than 10 years, if you're interested in space exploration, just faffing about and tinkering with spaceship building and design, Kerbal Space Program is where it's at. Astroneer. Similar in themes, at least. You are in space, you are exploring planets. However, a more one-person approach to the whole endeavor. You are an explorer. You collect resources from different planets. You can, at some point, voyage between planets with your self-made spaceships that you built through all the resource collection and crafting, and you move from planet to planet and maybe uncover hidden mysteries. Maybe. Maybe you won't, and you'll die suffocated one time after another, while delving deeper and deeper into not so friendly sometimes cave systems, not so friendly landscapes. You miscalculated how much oxygen you had, and you forgot to bring extra resources to produce oxygen on the go, and you'll slowly suffer trying to desperately get back to base or an airline, and you fail. That is pretty much the experience overall. Next on the list, World Turtles. Probably not a game you've heard of. Probably not a game I would have heard of, if not for the fact that the game dev at one point commented on my videos, and we got to a bit of chatting. And I have to say, game concept intrigued me, and I told him that if the game was interesting, I would certainly take a look at it, and potentially even play it on the channel. Well, that hasn't been the case yet, but I do find the game concept intriguing. It is a city builder, but a city builder, as the title and image implies, and the video, set on the back of a turtle. Well, if you don't know much about religious myths and, the origin of the universe in way back when cultures, some had myths regarding animals that hold the universe together. And one of them on the back of a turtle. Now, I'll let you guess which one, because that's part of your cultural knowledge or learning, if you will. Let's just say it's not Christianity, though some of the Christian myths are no less, let's say, surprising to other cultures, potentially. But here we go. There's worlds on the backs of turtles. Turtles that voyage through the universe, space, the ether, whatever. Interesting part is the city building. A lot of different options, strategic choices, and in kind of a medieval technological level, you build your tiny little towns. Of course, there's the visual aspect of the entire thing being on the back of a turtle. That certainly is interesting. It's sort of reminiscent of the map view of how you would view the world in the original Populous. Kind of a godlike approach to city building. Next up on the list, Somerville. A small game, let's say, that is, if you know what a limbo is, a story-driven narrative game more than a platformer puzzle-solving game. Nonetheless, it is a side-view, platform-like game, narrative-driven, certainly atmospheric, like the description says in Steam. You do have some puzzles, but it's mostly an easy voyage through an interesting storyline that will take you maybe an afternoon to go through. And it's visually striking. That is the aspect that really piqued my interest. Last on the list, we have Star Sand. It is a survival game set in a desert environment. If the game has a specific set of characteristics, a hook that is different, well, Subnautica, you're underwater. The desert is certainly an interesting landscape because you are using anything you can, typically dune shapes, hopefully constructions or oasis in the distance that you can use as reference points to be able to navigate what is essentially a sea of sand to get your sorry little ass out of what you will soon find to be not so hospitable place to be in. Hopefully you like pyramids. Spoilers, there's one in the thumbnail. You can imagine that the game is what, if you were a character in Stargate SG-1 and you somehow were dumped on an unknown planet through a Stargate and have to fend for yourself. That's what I imagine this to be, because, you know, the Egyptian style choices and cultural references, it kind of makes me think of the Goa'uld. Kind of. Even the worms, not really Goa'uld, much larger, but still. There's a link there. On to games available on less well-traveled platforms, for which you will typically get a key for Steam or elsewhere. Please note that some of these games often are on sale simultaneously on different platforms, so different versions may vary slightly in price depending on where you go for them. Here on Gamersgate, you have both of the Ni no Kuni games on sale currently. If you're a fan and appreciate the Studio Ghibli-type animation movies, you will fall in love with these two RPGs. The stories are a bit trite, as is typical of some JRPGs. Some aspects interesting. The designs certainly are interesting. The art is beautiful. And the sound design, well, music, soundtracks, I have to say, didn't really make a mark on me, but perfectly good. The art style, though. The animation is magnificent. So, if you have a couple 100 hours to put into a couple of games, here you go. Also on sale, Dragon Ball FighterZ or Fighter Z. In my opinion, the best transition from the series characters animations to the video game world. Man, does it make it look like you are actually controlling the series characters the way they were meant to be played, fighting other series characters the way they were meant to play and look and sound like. What a great game. If they could transpose this somehow to more open world-like RPGs to the entire story, instead of, let's face it, slightly weak-ass, really low-poly 3D stuff we've been getting, I could die happy. Also on not so well-known platforms, fanatical.com, we've got Telling Lies, well, not technically the follow-up or sequel to, but in the same style and by the same people as Her Story. It is a cinematic investigative video investigation game. You will look at tons of footage, more than Her Story. One of the reasons why at one point the game was review bombed, people really wanted more of the exact same type of game mechanics, but not exactly the same. And it is longer, and the video sequences are longer, and the investigation can, granted, it can be if that is not what you were looking for, but really, that's what the game is. It is a solid game, certainly an interesting game, certainly an interesting concept of a game, like Her Story was, and if you like really exceptionally good acting, even if a lot of it is supposed to be in sedate, everyday circumstances that can look boring, frankly, because they're meant to. The actors and actresses, spectacular job throughout. Also on the list, not so much based on cinematic experiences, but certainly RPG, combat adventures, Baldur's Gate, and Baldur's Gate 2, a bundle of the enhanced editions that is by Beamdog. You may want to look into the differences between the Beamdog enhanced versions and the actual originals. I have a preference to play the originals via the Baldur's Gate Trilogy mod that binds them all together under the engine of Baldur's Gate 2 and its improvements. But certainly, the Enhanced Edition is a buy and install and play experience. Might be easier for you. You might not even have a preference for the original versions. If you don't, this is an excellent pickup. To round things off, my favorite platform of choice to purchase games in, GOG.com, DRM-free games you will be able to keep forever, as long as, the platform is online, and whatever copies you may have stored offline don't get destroyed. But that's the case with everything now, isn't it? So, The Council, an investigation game. It's a sort of a Cluedo-type situation where you have to find out who did what, where and when, and the presentation is beautiful. Some of the game concepts are not perfect, but certainly worthwhile an experience, and at $2.99, wow. On to games that are somehow linked to my selections from last time around, because we were talking about games that are thematically linked to these. We were talking about Planet Coaster and Zool, and it just turns out that I don't know if they were on sale last week already, but certainly on sale now. Deluxe Roller Coaster Tycoon and Jazz the Jackrabbit, both of the games collection. Old games, DOS-era games. Roller Coaster Tycoon, self-explanatory, you build amusement parks. You have fun making people puke on super high speed, full of loop roller coasters and whatnot, after offering them too much food to eat and charging them a bundle, and becoming rich in the process, and having fun, torturing people. I mean, who doesn't want to torture people? Jazz the Jackrabbit, that's a platformer. My description last time around was the equivalent to Sonic and Mario on PC, what Nintendo and Sega had that PC players didn't have. Kind of the thing. Jazz the Jackrabbit is fairly dynamic, as in quick movement character, platformer, not quite up to the level of a Sonic or Mario World in quality, but very respectable efforts. Not Tonight, a small game. I prefer not to say too much about it because a lot of the magic of it is in the discovery of the mechanics of what you do, what you should do, what there is to discover, and how to discover it. Let's just put it that you will not finish it in one seat, but you will be thinking about it between the first time you played it and until you finish it, if you ever finish it. It might just fall out of your hands if the concept doesn't really hook you in. The Run Strings Club is a point-and-click about artificial intelligence and androids, if I recall correctly. It's an interesting game. I finished it. I have thankfully forgotten how it ends, I think, so I cannot spoil you even if I wanted to. Though it is interesting in, well, I wouldn't say a masterfully done experience, but certainly explores a few aspects of a potential dystopian cyberpunk future in a way that you don't often see in adventure games. Another dystopian experience, and again linked to what we were talking about last week, we talked about Narcosis, a game that was in essence, shafted by Soma. And here we go. Soma is now on sale, so if you were thinking about buying Narcosis, by my advice last week and haven't still, you have to choose between the two by Soma. If you want both, buy both. Much in the same vein, dystopian, underwater, oppressive, atmospheric, hiding from monsters experience, some puzzle solving, mostly narrative driven. What a game. And last, but by no means least in the list, Far Lone Sails. A game that has since seen a sequel, arguably better, some aspects maybe not so clean and to the point. Certainly an interesting experience. It is a puzzle solver. Side view, you have your vehicle, you control different parts of it, you change and gather a few more abilities along the way. You are desperately trying to move forward in a bleak and inhospitable landscape on a landcraft that sails. Just that alone is interesting enough in its concept. The execution makes it fairly gripping, and, well, dystopian futures, let's just say, and I'm not really spoiling anything by that, am I? Things don't necessarily end particularly well. And those are all the games I selected that are on sale or available for free this time around. Until next time.